Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I have something a little bit different and fun. I wanted to take you along for a little reading weekly vlog. I have been up to some fun things this week, and so thought I would just make a little reading vlog out of it. My family is actually in town, and so on Monday we went to Claude Monet's house and gardens, and I have some video clips from that I will insert after this. And that was really beautiful. It was actually my second time going this year, and the gardens are just absolutely spectacular. So many gorgeous flowers, and loved getting to see his house also. It's so colorful and cheerful and cozy. Just a really fun place to visit. So we did that, and that was a lot of fun. But I'm also here to chat a little bit about what I've been reading this week. So it is Wednesday already, and I am in the middle of a couple of different books. I have been reading Heidi, and I've really been in the mood this year to read a lot of children's classics that I haven't gotten to when I was a kid. So I knew I wanted to pick this one up, and it is the perfect summery read because it starts off in summer. And we follow Heidi, who is 5 years old at the beginning, and she is an orphan. She's been raised by her aunt, but then her aunt gets a job in Frankfurt and she can no longer take care of Heidi. And so Heidi gets shipped off to live with her grandfather in a really remote part of the Alps. And she has such a lovely childhood there. She gets to just roam around freely and go play with the goats, and just has a really kind of idyllic childhood in that sense. But then everything changes. She gets sent to Frankfurt to be a companion for a little girl who is in a wheelchair. And Heidi has just such a hard time adjusting to normal life outside of the mountain. And it's really sad. It's really kind of heartbreaking. And I'm almost halfway through, and I think things are going to take a turn and get better for Heidi. I'm really hoping she gets to be reunited with her grandfather and go back to the mountain and live that kind of remote but peaceful life that she has become so used to. So that is Heidi so far. I've also been reading on my Kindle Mrs. Quinn's Rise to Fame. This is a new release, and it follows Mrs. Quinn. She's maybe 70, in her 70s, 77 I think. And she has always loved baking. She cooks for her husband and her relatives, but then she kind of decides on a whim to enter Britain Bakes, which is like a spin-off of the British baking show. And so this is really cozy and a lot of fun. We get to see kind of her backstory and her connections to all of these different recipes and the different memories that they hold for her. I'm also about halfway through with this, and there are some parts that I don't care for as much in this. It's definitely more of a contemporary novel, but I am enjoying it, and it is something a little bit different. And then finally, as part of Jane Austen in July, I have been listening to the audiobook of Persuasion, and I am only 5 chapters, I believe, so far into this, but I am really enjoying it. I'm enjoying listening to it as well. I've never listened to one of Jane Austen's books as an audiobook before, so that's kind of a new and fun experience. So far, the Elliot family is having to vacate their house. They are running into some money troubles, and so they are looking for someone to rent their home during the summer. And Captain Wentworth has kind of come on the scene, and he has expressed interest in their house and to rent their house, I believe. And so yeah, I'm eager to see kind of how this turns out. I'm really enjoying it so far, and it's pretty short, so I might dip in and out of the audiobook and reading it physically. We'll see. Kind of what I've been up to reading so far. I will probably check back in later in the week. Hopefully I will have finished 1 or 2 of these books. Alright, hi everyone. It is a little bit later in the week. It is Saturday and I have another reading update for you. So I finished reading Mrs. Quinn's Rise to Fame and I really enjoyed this. The ending of it really made the book for me because on the halfway point I was not really sure if I wanted to continue with it, honestly. There is a bit of heaviness to the book, despite it being very cozy and sweet with the British baking show kind of vibes. Also give us a lot of flashbacks into Mrs. Quinn's past, and we can kind of see the way that the story is going, and it is really heartbreaking at times. Spoiler alert, but Mrs. Quinn ends up getting pregnant and having a baby, and gives the baby up for adoption. And there are a lot of really hard kind of moments where she's grappling with that and her decision in some ways, but she's forced, kind of has a lot of pressure from her family to give the baby up for adoption. And so it is really sad in that way and kind of hard to read. A bit more emotional kind of than I was expecting, but I'm glad I continued with it because towards the end there were some really beautiful moments between Mrs. Quinn and her husband, who was just so supportive of her throughout the entire book, and they had so many beautiful reflections on marriage and what it means to love someone deeply and to be married and the kind of sacrifice that that is. And so that was really beautiful. I wish that there were more books that portrayed marriage in that way, and it was so nice to read a book that had such a beautiful portrayal of marriage. So I really enjoyed that, and overall the book was a lot of fun. I am glad I read it. There were certain elements of it that were a little bit lacking for me, and so I ended up giving it 4 stars. But it was a lot of fun and a really interesting contemporary read. Also made a tiny bit of progress in Heidi. I'm still just a little over halfway, maybe right at halfway. But this is so sweet and I'm just loving it so much. Has now returned to live with her grandfather, and it's just such a sweet reunion. I'm enjoying so much all of her observations and the growth that Heidi has gone through, even though she has kind of experienced something you would think would be maybe traumatic in a lot of ways, leaving her grandfather who she loves and living with this family who she doesn't really know, and it's not always easy for her there, but she's handled it so well and she's come back even wiser. Yeah, so it's just a lot of fun to read this and to journey with Heidi. I'm looking forward to seeing what the second half of this is like. I'm just savoring this and enjoying reading this pretty slowly. And in terms of Persuasion, I haven't really made any progress on my audiobook. Hopefully I will get to that a bit more this week. But yeah, it's been kind of a slow reading week for me with having family in town, but that's okay. It's much better to spend time with them, and I did get some good reading in. So that's it for this week's reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the outings and reading updates, and I will see you next time. Bye!